Hi, my name is Keri Barnum. I am here for Free Advice Friday, the hour every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. We get together to talk about book marketing, publishing, writing, pretty much anything having to do with being an author. And so we take questions live either through Zoom, our actual Zoom call, which is at newshelves.com/FAF, or you can always email questions in advance to questions with an S at freeadvicefridays.com, and we take those throughout the week and we do our best to answer them live on Fridays. And then if you cannot join us live, we do put all of our replays up on YouTube, which is just youtube.com/newshelvesbooks. Try to keep it as easy as possible so everything's at a New Shelves Books branded site. And as I was saying just a minute ago, we had quite a few questions emailed in this week, so I want to make sure that we grab those. One of the questions that we had, and I've got this a couple times recently from children's books authors, is they have written a children's book and then they would like to get their book into the Scholastic book fairs, the Scholastic marketing. And I don't think a lot of people realize is that Scholastic is actually a publisher, or it's an imprint from a publisher. So when people think about marketing with Scholastic, usually they're not taking any books that were not published by them. Every once in a while, you may get into a book fair or something because the school kind of promotes it or pushes it, but usually if your book is not published by Scholastic, then you're not getting your book into their book fairs, you're not getting into their magazines or their advertising. That doesn't mean that you cannot market to books, or market to libraries and to schools. You can, and you just do that individually. You go after schools, you go after teachers and classrooms, and we had a fantastic article written by Jane Wood on that very topic, so that's on the New Shelves blog. I will go find that, but if you just go newshelves.com/blog, it's up there. And Jane also has a book as well that talks about how to get your book into the school system. And so you can certainly buy that and kind of follow her steps. She had some really great tips about how you reach out to individual, certainly, yes, you can go to principals, but going to the teachers, finding how your book can fit into the curriculum, and then going to individual teachers and asking them about a classroom opportunity is usually the best way to get in. And so highly recommend that. I'm going to drop the blog in here. It's just Marketing Books to Schools is what it's titled, and it's on New Shelves. There we go. And then Tara also provided us with Jane's book, which is Schools, a Niche Market for Authors, which is a great little book. I've got it. It's really thin, easy to get through, so it's not, it's got what you need, but it doesn't have a bunch of fluff that you don't have time for. It's a really good book. So Scholastic, if you weren't published by them, is probably not your market. However, you can emulate what they do. You can go to schools. You can certainly market into libraries, just in a different way. Trying to get into the Scholastic Book Fair is not really going to be your spot. There we go. And we've got Jane, the Jane, on the call. So if you guys have any follow-up questions on marketing to schools, she's on, and I bet she would humor us and answer things if we have any questions that you want to follow up with. All right. Yes, Jane's also saying her website is janewoodbooks.com. So you can also see that as well. She's got a lot of stuff up there about, how she works with schools, and also like her forms and stuff. She's really provided a lot of information for the schools that you can look at and see how she does it. And she makes it very available to authors, which is great. Yeah, great. All right. Do you have any experience with podcast clout? I'm curious, but needing to decide where my PR marketing money is best spent. I have the bandwidth to do podcast research myself, but don't want to overlook worthwhile tools, services either. I have personally not used Podcast Clout. I have for podcasting and information, I have used Up My Influence, and we used them and they were good. You put your information on and they're sending your information out to podcasters. However, it is typically very expensive. And I will say that when we've done direct outreach, when we have researched podcasts and done direct outreach, because we had the bandwidth and the time, we got better results. Reaching out directly and saying, hey, I think that I would fit in your podcast because, and giving real tailored reasons for why you'd fit in a podcast, was actually getting a lot of bookings for our clients. Now, it does definitely depend on who you're reaching out to. If you're reaching out to these podcasts that are huge, if you're trying to get on, I don't know, who's someone famous who has podcasts, Joe Rogan. If you're trying to get on Joe Rogan's podcast, well, that's probably not going to work. But if you're trying to get on a more new podcast or something that has a following, but maybe it's not in the millions, certainly reaching out and telling them exactly how your book fits in and what you would like, or be willing to talk to them about, could be a great thing. So if you have the time, the bandwidth, all you have to do is do a Google search. I was actually doing one this morning for a client. Just do a Google search that is, parent podcasts, or podcasts for kids of divorce, or school podcast, teacher podcast, and then just search for them. And most of them, they do either have social media or websites where you can reach right out to them and ask if they would be willing to have you on as a guest. When you are pitching them, make sure you keep it short. You want a, hello, my name is, this is what I have to offer, and I was wondering if you would be willing, to have me on your show as a guest. So it should be pretty quick. It should be pretty snappy. They don't want to read your whole life story. They don't even want to read your full book synopsis, because they're not going to read your book on the podcast. They want to know overall, in general, what you have to offer in a discussion. So I think that's really important as well. So often we go, as authors, you want to lead with your book and you want to lead with this whole synopsis. And that's not really what's going to hook them. It's going to be the topics you can talk about, and then maybe you thread your book in. So if you have a children's book that, let's say you have a children's picture book, well, then maybe a podcast that's for parents and teachers talking about how children's books and reading and literacy are a big deal. And, it's just about how reading to your kids can get them further in life and that kind of thing. Have some type of marketing angle that you can fit in to their podcast, because that is what they're looking for. They're not looking to conform their podcast around what you want to talk about. They're looking for guests who are going to make themselves available to how they are already working and what their topics are already on. With that said, again, I've never used Podcast Clout, and it could be a great service. Again, I just think if you have the time, then certainly that's something that I would at least start on your own and see how it goes. Yeah, exactly. I think you always do your own stuff first, and then if you get stuck or you're not getting all the results you want, well, then go with the service and tell them I've already talked to these people, or I've already gotten on X amount of podcasts, and these are the ones I've gotten on. So that's great. And Caroline's saying authormedia.com/novel marketing has a great resources on how to get booked as podcast guests, which is great. Yes, be sure to keep meticulous records. That's great, Tara. I have a spreadsheet that I keep track of. So I have columns that cover first name, last name, the podcast name, the email of the person in contact, or the submission form, the email of the person, the podcast URL, and then I have a column that says pitched, and that well, first I have a column that's notes, and that tells me in a brief summary what that podcast is interested in. And then I have a column that has a date, so I can say when I pitch them, and then I have a date for when I should follow up. And then I have another column. It's like a really big spreadsheet, but then I have another column that has pitched on this day, led with this angle, and then we'll follow up. And then I keep notes. If they respond back and they're like, oh, I'm kind of closed down for the summer, but I'll be up and running again in September. Well, I make a note there so that when I'm feeling really productive in September, I can go and follow up. And I just keep that spreadsheet running. That way also, I have found podcasts and I have been able to create kind of a database of them. So when I've got a new book out or a new client, I can just go back and use the same ones. It's certainly, especially if I had a good experience with that podcast, the door is open to where I can say, hey, remember when you interviewed Charlie and it was so awesome? I have another book in the author I think you might be interested in. That's great. Yes, that's a good one, Tara, to keep the qualifications and the number of episodes and the ratings and all of that. And sometimes, keep in mind, sometimes you've got to start low. If you don't have, and I think we talked about this kind of with the speaker reel, if you don't have video of yourself, or if you don't have social proof that you can speak well, that you're a good guest, you're not going to talk over people, then you may have to start with kind of a newer podcast that doesn't have as much of a following, just to get that social proof. So you can say, I was on here and here's that link. So that you can have that social proof that you're an excellent guest and you know what you're talking about. And Caroline's saying she's taking the How to Get Booked as Podcast Guest training for several of the authors she's working with. So that's good. Yeah, I think there's a lot of nuances, just like anything. Lots of nuances. Awesome. All right, let me go back to my email. You guys, I answered so many emails last night because I think everyone I work with probably emailed me 10 times, and everyone I don't work with emailed me about 10 times over the long holiday weekend. I came back to almost 500 emails in my inbox, and I'm still digging out. So if I haven't responded to you, just know I'm down right now to 57. I'm getting there. I'm gonna empty it today before I'm done. I stayed up most of the night trying to get through that. All right. Answered that one. We've got this one here. That's not for us. We're going to have some guests on soon, I think, which is always fun. Speaking of guests, if you guys did not catch the newest New Shelves blog, which was on Subsidiary Write Trends for 2021, that was written by Anna Termini, who we love and adore because she gives the best advice on subsidiary rights, which is like translations, audiobooks, turning your book into a film, that kind of stuff. She wrote this nice blog for us. I dropped it in. It's right on the New Shelves blog, but all about what's trending in subsidiary rights, because I was very interested to find out that usually translations do pretty well, but then because of the pandemic, because people were on lockdown, but more than that, people outside of the US and other countries were really strict about lockdown. They weren't printing and they were not interested in translation rights. It was just not very popular at all. And so that was kind of dying off. And now translation rights are coming back, but it's paying lower royalties right now. Finding out that audiobooks are very hot right now, but the most popular books are only 1 to 3 hours long. I never would have guessed that. I know that audiobooks are definitely trending and audiobooks are growing. I mean, they are growing like 16 to 20% year over year, and they're expected to be, I think they top out it's the trend tops out around 2027 is when it'll be like, okay, this is where we're at the top of it. Right now it's still a growing trend, but I never ever would have guessed that the most popular audiobooks were 1 to 3 hours, because I'm that person who goes, well, this book is only 17 hours and that one's 30 hours, so I'll use my Audible credit on that, and that's like 3 days of working while I listen. So I thought that was kind of funny. And also just talking about all the, audiobooks and what's hot and what's not and what's coming up, and also how to pitch your own book for subsidiary rights, because a lot of it does go through agents, but also you can pitch yourself, and she had some really great tips for that as well, including what you should put in a pitch. So if you've been wondering about getting your book into film, I know that's a really big one. I have several clients who really have this dream of getting their book into film. And I'm glad that she talked about that, because we have a guest that's going to come on, and he's writing an article for us that is like a step-by-step on how to pitch your book for film rights. It's what he does. He actually, he's a filmmaker, and I've been working with him for a while, and it's a whole new world, like taking books that we have, we're book people, and books into film and books into audio and different things like that are, it's still books, but it's a whole nother world. And I've been learning a ton, and I think it's so cool to see how you can actually get, like, normal people, us, real people, can get your books made into film, or translated into different languages and things like that. So I think it's pretty cool. Been geeking out over that lately. And we will have, like I said, some guest posts so that we can share that with you guys, so that you can get into that as well. All right. Vicky had, and actually maybe someone else would have also gotten these emails. Vicky said that she got emails from Amazon Vella saying it was the last chance to participate. She's asking if that's true, and unfortunately she did not still have the email. So I don't know if anyone else has gotten emails from KDP recently saying it's your last chance to participate in Kindle Vella. Now, as far as I know, Kindle Vella is not going anywhere. In fact, they officially launched their full platform in July. Okay, there we go. It's all in the wording. Look, Vicky, they were using the tricky words on you. It was the last chance to participate before it opened to readers, to kind of have your stories and your things up there before readers opened up. So you can still continue to participate. I mean, they just launched, they're launching now in July, their official platform. So you can still participate. Just keep in mind that Kindle Vella is brand new content that was never posted before. It cannot come from your novels, cannot come from books, cannot be on Kindle Unlimited. It has to be brand new content. And I believe it's 5,000 words and less. So I mean, it's short. It's serialized fiction is really what it is, and it's short. And I do think that those first group of authors, they kind of, and readers too. I mean, readers, if you signed up for that early, you were getting, they call it a token, and that's how you pay for it. And you were getting tokens for super cheap, because they were just trying to get people onto the model at first. So the new official rollout is happening in July for Vella, and we'll see how it turns out. I'm very curious. I think that serialized fiction is definitely popular, especially with younger people, with middle graders, young adult, and even like new adult kind of stuff. That's still very popular. So I'm curious to see how that goes, and if those people are willing to pay for their serialized fiction, or if they're just too used to getting it free from places like Wattpad. So we will find out. But you're not missing out on anything. You do not need to worry. All right. Our friend Randy has some questions today. Let's see here. Oops. I don't know what I just did. I'm pushing buttons. All right. How long before your book launch should you do a cover reveal? Well, typically when I'm doing a cover reveal, I want it to lead to something. When you do a cover reveal, you're getting interest, you're getting people looking and liking and commenting on things. So typically when I'm doing that, I want to drive them somewhere. So if you're doing a cover reveal, you could do it super early. Some very successful cover reveals happen a year early. Sorry about that. They happen a year early, and then some cover reveals actually don't happen until like 3 weeks before the book launches. It all depends on what your goal is. When you have that traffic, when you have eyes on you on your social media, what are you trying to do with it? Are you saying, here's my book cover, here's all its gloriousness, but I don't have a sales page up yet, so go follow me on YouTube? Are you saying, my book is up for pre-order and here's the cover? Typically, when we're doing it, we just want to make sure that we've got something a little bit further to ask of people. We want them to go do something. So it could be to follow you on social media, to follow you on Goodreads. It could be to go do your Goodreads giveaway. It could be to go pre-order. It could be a link to your new website. Whatever it is, just make sure that you pack a punch there, and make sure that you are reasonably ready that that's your final book. Certainly book covers do change from time to time, but people start to build that brand in their head. They start to get used to that book cover. So try to keep it as much as you can the same once you reveal it. And the follow-up question, or second question, is there an ideal time to enter a book contest? Early, middle, or right before the deadline? Or is the only thing that matters the quality of your book? That's actually a really interesting question. Not like I'm surprised you had an interesting question. That sounded rude. So with a book contest, I have friends who have judged them, who've been on panels who judged them and things like that. I don't think that there is like an ideal time. Just know that those books are actually read. So there's usually a judging team who volunteers or is paid to read the books and kind of judge them and rate them. And then based on that rating is kind of how people win. And if it comes down to something that's like a really close tie, then, you know, other people get involved, and it could be in the formatting of the book and blah, blah, blah. So I don't think that going early is going to hurt you. I will say that if you go super late, you may kind of get shoved into someone who's got to read it last minute. But I think that, I mean, they have their process, and they do have multiple people reading it. It's not like it's one person reading 500 submissions. It is a team of people who are reading these books, which is why book submissions stay open for a really long time. Usually they'll open up book submissions like in the beginning of the year, and keep it open for anywhere from 3 to 9 months. And that is because they've got to read a lot of books. And so if you're 500 book submissions, if there's a team of 10 people, then that means that you're reading 50 books. So what's that, a book a week almost? If these aren't children's books, then these are novels, and I have worked with you guys, and some of you have some hefty books. It definitely, it takes some time. So they are going to kind of put it out, but they do usually have forms where they give everything a star rating and they make comments on it. So I think what they probably do is they add up those star ratings for the category, and then they find whoever's on top, and if it's a tie, then they start looking back into the books, and possibly pulling in tiebreakers. I'm sure it's different for every committee. Every book award that you go to probably has some of their own kind of special ways that they do things. But that is the general way, as far as I know, people who've done it, and I've been a part of any of that. It's been like that. I love that. I love the bromance happening on the chat. All right. Is there a list of book awards and their cost, especially for self-published and main publishers? There are several lists of book awards. TCK Publishing has a huge list. I know some of our authors who are on the call use they use a service that actually finds the book awards for them. And you guys, I know you know what I'm talking about. So if anyone can remember the name, Book Awards Pro. One day, Tara, I'm just going to take your mind and just keep it with me. Book Awards Pro can go find awards for you, like kind of based on your criteria, and they go find them for you, and you can either apply yourself or you can pay a larger fee and they apply for some for you. Excuse me. So you can get into that way. And it looks like a couple of our people on the call have used them. Okay. That's good. And yes, and that is also true. Ally has a list with cautions for those that are a little too expensive, that don't really deliver, different things like that. That is on their watchdog list. Ally, one of my favorite things about them is their watchdog list. It is a list of like things to be kind of wary of, things to stay away from, and they update it all the time. Not too long ago, when I actually sat down and talked to Orna Ross, who is the co-founder of Ally, we were talking about that and just how it's something that they are constantly doing. Every time they get complaints about different companies, they will go and they kind of research them and see, and it's amazing. When Orna was really talking to me about it, it's amazing how many of the things that you hear bad things about, it is the same people or the same companies who start a new company under a different name, and it's the same people. Like, they get a bad rap, and so no one uses their services, so then they start a new company with a different name doing the same thing. It's crazy to me how that happens. But all right. Yes, and that's the Ally link, and that's all on Ally. And if you're not a member of either Ally or IBPA, which is the Independent Book Publishing Association, may I highly recommend that you join one of those. I think Ally's membership starts around $80 and goes up from there, and IBPA is a little bit more expensive, but not by much, depending on what you're trying to get out of them and how many books you have published and all that kind of stuff. You can get a membership for around $100. And same thing. Well, let me stick to these two first. So IBPA and Ally, I like them because they're organizations that kind of fit every group of books. They have something for everyone. They also both offer Ingram Spark codes. I don't know if you guys are in any Ingram Spark Facebook groups, but it has become quite the drama that people are passing around the free codes for Ingram Spark. And Ingram Spark was kind of like, look, we've had enough. Everyone is just passing around these codes that were meant to be private or for members only. And so they stopped giving away all these free codes. Oh, they cracked down on those codes. And so what they did is they used to have a yearly code for like IBPA and Ally, and they did free codes pretty often, but people just got ridiculous about it, not only in asking for them and using them, but then they had people who were basically spam publishing, who were putting out tons of books that weren't really actually good quality, or like that were not legitimate. And so they were like, no, if you want to do that, then you're going to pay. It's $49 per book, and then it's $25 for a revision. And that's perfectly legit. But if you join Ally or IBPA, you get a code that you can use each month up to 5 times, which is 60 times in a year. And if you're uploading more than that in books or revisions, well, then you're probably like a full-fledged publisher. And in that case, you should kind of expense that in. Yes, and then those people would complain about how little customer service they got after not wanting to pay for anything. So they wanted a company to run for free and then provide excellent customer service. And that is very rarely how life works. And so that's that. If you had codes from Ally or IBPA and they're no longer working, please know they have updated codes. You have to go into your member dashboard and get them every month now. And it does change, but it is available. They're super easy to grab. And actually, both IBPA and Ally have a whole packet and a whole spot in their systems for different discounts. So like even New Shelves has different discounts that we offer. Anyone who is like a partner with them can do discounts, and a lot of people do. So if you are looking for different services and you're like, hey, I could check out someone who supports IBPA and maybe get a discount, check out all their member benefits because it's awesome. And David, I think, mentioned the Nonfiction Association. I love them. I love Stephanie. I think she is great. They put out great content. I do think that while they are amazing, they are definitely nonfiction focused. So it's not something that is as rounded. If you are looking for something that has, again, if you're a publisher and you're really looking for something that benefits all of your authors or different things like that, it's not quite the same. The Nonfiction Association, we're a member of that too. New Shelves is a member of like everything because we apparently have like organization FOMO. But I love them. I think they're great. If you're fiction, if you're children's, that kind of thing, it's not for you. It's really meant more for adult nonfiction books, and they are great in their niche. But if you're anything else, it's not going to be as helpful to you. But they have good webinars. Actually, all of them. They have blogs, they have webinars, they have different things that they offer their members that I fully appreciate. And I think that they are great services, and they're all very well respected. And I would stand behind any of those organizations and recommend them to authors. I do, orgfomo.com. Just gonna do it there, and then I'll put all my affiliate links in there. Like, yeah, I've got one for everything because I'm part of everything. Yes, and sometimes when you're a member of an organization, part of the member benefits is a discount code to become a member of another. That's a good point, Tara, is that sometimes like that is actually right there in the discount. So Tara is saying that being a FAPA member saves money on the IBPA, and that does cross-reference. Like if you are a part of like Romance Writers of America, or if you are a part of your local Writers Guild or something like that, many times they will cross over with discounts. So check that out as well if you're already a member of something. Because I think it helps. Sometimes it really helps to have different places and things, and they usually curate lists, just how New Shelves has our people we like list. They have like mega list where they have a bunch of editors and printing places and things like that that they work with and recommend. So that's good. It's a good resource. Let me see. Answered that one. A follow-up question to book award submissions. I have a heavy image book, but most have turned to electronic as preferred. Which would you suggest submitting, the hard copy or the electronic version? Pros and cons of both versions. Well, I would see what they're accepting. Some places really aren't accepting physical books right now, so I would just see if you are sending in a digital version, I would go with your PDF. Don't go with an ebook. Unless it's like required, and that's the only option. Look for things that allow PDF or physical copies, especially, now I'll say PDF might work if you're in black and white. If you have high color, if you've got a cookbook, and I know you don't, David, but if you have a cookbook or something like that, part of what sells it, part of what has like people, part of what has me looking at those recipes and like digging in is because it pops off the page and it looks delicious. I was skimming through a client's cookbook the other day, She does like gluten-free and all this stuff. Her stuff all looks so good. And so I was just sitting there hungry all day. It was not awesome, but now I have dinners planned for weeks and weeks, which is cool. So just consider what your book lends itself to, and also what they have open. If they have physical books open and that's a possibility, if you've got a picture book, you probably want to go with that. If they don't, try to do a PDF. How long do you suggest waiting after submitting for professional reviews before sending a nudge? Great question. So when sending in professional reviews, whether it be to Library Journal or let's say Library Journal, the Horn, the ALA, anything like that, when you're sending it in, this is not for paid review, because generally if you're doing a paid review, they give you like a window. You'll have it by this date. If you're doing for professional reviews for free, I typically recommend that you wait a minimum of 3 weeks. Most of the time they're not getting your email before then. And when you check in and you do that nudge, it needs to be very much not, did you get it, but hi, I just wanted to make sure that you had everything you need. If you'd like a physical book sent, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know the address, and if there's anything else I can provide for you, I'm happy to do so. Because that gets a lot more response and better response than, yo, did you get my email? Because I emailed like 3 weeks ago, or possibly 3 minutes ago, or 3 hours ago, and I haven't gotten a response yet. No, that does not go over well. And I know none of you would actually do that. However, keep in mind that when you say, did you get my review? Did you get this? When will I hear back from you? They are not obligated to respond at all. And some of them do not. I mean, if it's a no, they just don't respond. Most of them really try to, but they get tons of submissions every day. So make sure that when we nudge them, we do it in a way of how can I be helpful? So typically 3 weeks, and then usually most of the time they'll respond back with, we got it. It's taking 4 to 6 weeks for us to look through a review, that kind of thing. And so then you set your calendar for that, whatever time period it is, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and just say, I know you're so busy, but I just want to check in, make sure I didn't miss anything from you. And then let them breathe. I have gotten responses from not only review queries, but follow-up nudges. I've gotten responses literally 3 to 5 weeks after I've sent an email. And they got it. They just hadn't gotten to it. And so patience is the game with those professional reviews. In the same stride, I have put in for professional reviews and gotten a response like that. Usually that's if the book really catches their attention. But keep in mind that the person who gets that review material usually gets it, and then they put it out to the correct department, and then that department decides if they want to review it. And then it like goes down the line and kind of gets funneled out. So lovely, gentle nudges about 3 weeks in, and then typically after that 3 week, it's going to be 4 or 6 weeks, kind of depending on what they respond to you. Let's see. Trina is asking, do you think a book that has been out for some months can still be marketed with this boomba? I don't know what that is, to be honest, Trina. So if anyone else has experience with this boomba, I'll Google it, and has any fantastic insight that I'm missing, please let me know, because again, I'm having a little FOMO of exactly what I'm missing out on here. All right, I'm still waiting for my copyright form TX from the Copyright Office. I submitted this over 10 months ago. I'm wondering if others have been experienced the same delay in their copyright forms. Yes. Now, oh, I'll get back to that, Trina, and laugh at myself. So, David, Library of Congress is running slowly, as is the Copyright Office. However, However, it's definitely one of those things that if you can follow up online, that kind of thing. I think 10 months is at the point where you should be able to follow up for sure. But just know that Library of Congress and copyright offices are running slow on their official responses. I hope it's better now. A couple months ago, I had heard Library of Congress was running about 9 months behind on everything. So if you're not getting responses, just know it may not be you, but you should certainly follow up after 10 months. And Trina has corrected me here. And again, we have to laugh at me. She meant like with Flair. Has anyone had a really great experience marketing their book after it's been out for some months? So I misunderstood the question. Sorry, Trina. Yes, yes, a relaunch. Absolutely. It's what you make of it, and you can absolutely do a relaunch. Now, depending on how old the book is, if it's a couple months, you can absolutely relaunch. You can do new marketing strategies. There are certain things that you can do a couple months in when you have more reviews that you maybe couldn't do right when you launched the book. However, if your book is years old, one of the things I always say is before you do some big relaunch strategy, check your cover and be honest with yourself if it's outdated. If your cover is outdated, all of that time, that effort, that money you put into relaunching will not amount to much. So consider that, and if you need a little, a little makeover, make it happen. But absolutely, I have seen that people, I've worked with a lot of things where you can relaunch, where you can, I've seen when you have a series, if you have a series, market the heck out of that first book. It could have been out for 3 years. Who cares? Market the first book now that your third or fourth book is out. That's where magic happens. I'm actually working with some people right now on that, and they are getting great responses because they didn't have a series before. They didn't have as much copy to play with. They didn't have as many books to play with. So there are certainly ways to do that depending on your book and your genre. It's what you put into it. And when you're relaunching, I think it's really important that you tackle what you really want to accomplish rather than acting like it's a brand new book. Don't do that, but tackle it how you want to. Can you tie your book into a holiday? We did a blog post on New Shelves recently that was all about weird holidays and national holidays that you could tie your book into and how you could get that to happen. Book Talk. Apparently, Book Talk on TikTok is going crazy, and the books that are getting a lot of attention on there are actually a couple of years old. So there was this big article, I think it was NBC. There's this big article where Book Talk is having these older titles are suddenly like brand new life and getting tons of sales and marketing because they were just presented in a new and exciting way. I'll drop that link in here. It was an article that I was reading the other day. So if you're on TikTok, consider checking that out. There are so many ways to do that if you've got the time and the energy to devote to that. So pick what you're willing to do that with and make it happen. Make a plan, and you can absolutely do that. All right. Let me see. Can you submit an older title for review for professional reviews? No, if it is not a new, actually, when you're sending out for professional reviews, unless you're paying for a review, it usually has to be sent at least 4 months before publication. So you can pay for a review, which I wouldn't really recommend. It has to be a new title that's not yet published. And thank you, Michelle. I'm not going to say it out loud, but thank you. And for reviews, there's a whole list of reviews. Again, New Shelves has a lot of great resources, you guys. If you go to the New Shelves website and you go to our store, we have a bunch of free downloads. That holiday calendar I was just talking about for you to connect in there. The review, the professional review list, that's on there. It's all free. It's just in our store. So if you go to our store, there is a bunch of freebies. Here, I'll actually show you. And I switch them out and I put new stuff in from time to time just to just keep it exciting. Let me see. All right, so I can share my screen. If you go to the New Shelves store, which is right here, you just go to newshelves.com and go to the store. Right in here, there is like professional book reviewer list is free. We've got social media guides. We've got these little book graphic templates, which is for Canva. That's 99 cents. And you actually get the template that you can drag and drop your stuff into. We have one sheets. So the one sheets that we always talk about for marketing your book that you should always have. We have Canva templates where you can buy the template and then you can adjust it. You can change up the colors, but it's drag and drop your information. So it's a good template. We've got the book holiday calendar that's free. We've got a marketing timeline, 9 magic questions. That's about narrowing your focus for your marketing. We've got the trusted book blogger list for when you're trying to do that. A checklist and to-do list for publishing is 99 cents right now. I make that free every once in a while. So this is all here. And then also I mentioned our blog, and our blog is up here as well. So we do this pretty much every Monday and Thursday, and we have amazing people who are willing to guest post and kind of talk to us about different specialty things as well. And then you can search with this little bar right here. You can search whatever you want. You can do Ingram, and it will pull up all of our blogs with Ingram in them, which is kind of nice. And then of course we've got all our social media links here. So maybe you want a YouTube video on how to leave a review. You can connect to that. We try to put up a lot of content so that you guys can follow even when we can't meet in person. Yeah, see, that's good. A relaunch of connecting. Caroline's saying we had worked together and talking about linking a book to a popular TV show, something in pop culture, and linking to a popular TV show just worked for Caroline to relaunch a book that was from 2015, because you're launching in pop culture now. What's trending right now? What's being talked about right now? You can totally make that happen. I think that there's always something current you can tie your book into, whether it be a social event, something on film, a music, anything like that. If you can tie it to current things that are already being talked about, that are already being searched, that people are feeling comfortable with at the moment, then you'll have a lot easier time marketing your book. Let's see. All right, let me make sure I got my emails answered. I did. Look at that. I have 20 new emails since we started Free Advice Friday. All right, you guys, I think we really talked about everything. I think we got all our questions answered for today. I have been getting quite a few questions about when we will do our next bookstore marketing campaign to our book buyer list. So we've got a list of 3,000 book buyers that we, a couple times a year, will do a campaign where people can sign up to have their book marketed to our marketing list. It's not a list that New Shelves bought. We have built it over the years one by one. And we also have a library marketing list that we do the same thing. That's got about 7,000 contacts. And I get questions all the time when we're doing that. And that will be coming soon. If you're on our newsletter, you'll get the notice for that. First, they do fill up quickly. I was trying to set it up yesterday, I think, and my checkout thing was giving me a hard time. So I'm going to try again, but it will be opening up soon. So if you've been waiting for a bookstore mailing or a library mailing, those are coming up. And keep in mind that if you're thinking, man, my book is perfect for bookstores, my book is a children's book, or it's something that bookstores will absolutely love, or I want it to be on the shelves for the holiday season, keeping in mind that most bookstore sales, 40% of all book sales happen during the winter holidays. So roughly November, December, and January, 40% of sales happen in those 3 months. So if you want your book in bookstores, or you at least want to get your book in front of buyers, now's the time. They're not buying books in November. They're buying books now, and they're planning it out. So if that is of interest to you, shoot me an email. I'll make sure that you get first dibs. The people who come every day are, who meet us here on Free Advice Friday get first dibs. But email me and let me know. Otherwise, you guys, will be back next week. If you are waiting for an email response from me, please know I'm getting there. I will be responding to each and every person that I owe an email to before I am done for the night tonight. And if you're not seeing it, please check your junk mail. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.